Welcome to Face Forward, the podcast, the series that takes you behind the scenes of the riveting world of clinical trial management. I am your host, Valerie Kovney, and I am thrilled to be your guide on this journey through the nuances of planning, executing, and navigating the clinical research landscape. Joining us is Harley Skorpenske, a clinical research associate at Indero. Her extensive experience in clinical research spans various therapeutic areas with a particular focus on dermatology and rheumatology. Harley's innovative approaches to patient recruitment and retention have been pivotal in enhancing the success of numerous clinical trials. Together, we'll explore the optimization of recruitment and retention in rheumatoid arthritis clinical trials. We will focus on the challenges and considerations in recruiting participants, the impact of seasonal and environmental factors, and finally, proven strategies to enhance recruitment and retention. So without any further ado, let's welcome Harley Skorpenske.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So let's begin here. Can you detail for our listeners the main challenges in patient recruitment for RA trials?
So for rheumatoid arthritis patients, there are a number of obstacles that I think we should be considering. So the first one that comes to mind is just how complex rheumatoid arthritis can be as an illness, especially in the sense that a lot of other illnesses are actually tacked on to RA patients. So things like fibromyalgia, Sjogren's, mixed connective tissue disease, Raynaud's, these are all things that this patient might have also been diagnosed with. So if there's an inclusion-exclusion criteria that says the patient can only have RA or they can't have any other illness that might interfere with the assessment of RA, it can be really, really tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Something else to consider are some of the socioeconomic barriers that these patients are facing. Things like being on disability or other forms of income loss. This is going to impact the patient's ability to travel to and from the clinic. So some of these patients are going to be hoarding their PTO days, right? For those days that they're feeling really, really bad. And the idea of using a PTO day to come to a clinic for a visit when they're feeling okay can feel almost wasteful.
Definitely.
And then the last thing that comes to mind is just the patient caution that so many rheumatoid arthritis patients are going to have. Patients that have more advanced forms of rheumatoid arthritis and they're experiencing daily pain, they might be hesitant to try new therapies, right? Their arthritis isn't particularly being managed right now, but there is this chance that it could always get worse. And so they're a little nervous to try something new, and they're going to be heavily relying on their rheumatologist's advice.
Okay, and how would seasonal, regional, and environmental factors fit into these challenges?
So it's really fascinating that weather can impact disease activity so much.
Mm-hmm.
For rheumatoid arthritis patients, weather sensitivity, particularly cold, can be a really big challenge for them. So as we move into colder months, or if we're working with a demographic that lives in a colder climate, it a lot of times is going to worsen their pain. And then on the flip side of that, we have the opposite, right? We have seasonal placebo effect where patients who were moving into spring and summer, or they're living in a warmer climate, their joints are going to feel a little looser, warmer, and they're probably going to be reporting lower incidences of pain.
So we covered some of the challenges. What would be some strategies that could counter or support these situations?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things I think we can do to support recruitment and retention. So the first would be actually looking at the protocol design. And two things I think that a good protocol can offer. So an open label extension period, and this is just, a period after the investigational product versus placebo section is done. And this promise of getting put on active medication at some point can be really enticing for patients, and I think will drive up recruitment. Another option is to offer some sort of short-term rescue medication to the patients throughout the duration of the trial. And this helps, as I mentioned earlier, patients are really nervous about being in pain. And if they know that there's a chance chance they're going to be put on placebo, the promise of still having some sort of rescue drug to counteract that pain that they're feeling can be really reassuring for them.
Mm-hmm.
Something else to think about is some of the logistical and financial support for these patients. So with all patients, with any trial outside of rheumatoid arthritis even, we want to make sure that they're being offered a reasonable compensation and reimbursement package. And that's just going to, in general, reduce some of that participation burden. And then something else that I think is particularly helpful with this subset of patients is offering some more flexible scheduling for their in-clinic visit. So we mentioned some of those reasons that the patient might not be able to come to clinic. So having evening and weekend appointments is particularly accommodating for this group of patients.
Okay, so moving on here onto the site level, what could be done or what can be done to ensure patient comfort and accessibility?
Yeah, so with these patients, keeping pain and comfort in mind is huge. Pain is a really, really powerful symptom.
Mm.
And so making sure that the clinic is as accessible as possible is really important. And this happens on like the large scale, so ensuring that the facility is accessible in terms of making sure that there are ramps, making sure that the hallways are wide enough and the bathrooms are big enough to maneuver either a walker or wheelchair. That's really important. And then also happens on a smaller scale, so making sure that there are stools at the bottom of exam tables. For people that don't have rheumatoid arthritis, hopping up on an exam table seems like a very normal, easy sort of activity, but it can be a really challenging feat. And then two, I always like to suggest having arthritis-friendly snacks and refreshments, and handing someone that has moderate to severe arthritis in their hands a soda can. Being able to pop that tab can actually be really challenging. So whether it's the coordinator ahead of time popping it for them, or when they're handing it to them asking, do you want me to help you with that? That can be kind of just a little way to enhance hospitality at the site level. Other things that we can do for these patients, make it a little bit easier on them, is offering some telehealth visits and having some methods of remote monitoring. So using virtual visits and wearable technology so that these patients aren't having to come into the clinic every single time we want to monitor something or ask them questions. And this could be a blood pressure cuff that they take home or a continuous EKG machine that they wear. And then kind of the bonus to these things is it allows for continuous data collection, which can be really beneficial for long-term data analysis for the sponsor.
So it is my understanding that community and relationships can have an impact on recruitment. Could you develop on that idea?
Yeah, so something that I think is particularly beautiful about this community, and it's rheumatoid arthritis and other people that are living with these life-altering illnesses, is that they find a lot of value in building community. Anyone that has rheumatoid arthritis knows somebody else with rheumatoid arthritis, and whether that's through an official group or just kind of this casual friendship that they have created, it's a great way for them to have the opportunity to talk about some of the challenges they're dealing with, and then also kind of figure out like those rheumatoid arthritis life hacks that other people are using.
Yeah.
So for recruitment and retention, we can kind of use this beautiful community that they've created and dive into patient referrals. You have a patient that already trusts you and is already interested. And so asking them to refer someone else that they know, it's going to organically grow study enrollment, and it's going to bring you more patients that trust the original patient. And so now they also trust you. And then there's obviously, we can go the more official route and go into these larger advocacy groups. We can partner with either rheumatoid arthritis or other autoimmune disease organizations, and this helps us build our credibility because these organizations are already so trustworthy to this community of patients, and it'll help expand some of our outreach to people that might not be already in that close-knit community. And then lastly, I think something that could be really helpful for sites to offer is some informational materials for the patients to take with them to their next rheumatology or other medical team visits. It allows the patient to have something to reference so that they can have a really good educated conversation with their physician. And then also it allows the rheumatologist to have something tangible to look at that gives them some of this information on the trial and allows them to ask questions and have kind of that informed conversation. And ultimately, I think the goal is to have the specialist's approval, and their approval can really be the tipping point for the patient wanting to participate in the trial.
Mm-hmm. And what would be the role of communication and education in building that patient trust you mentioned?
So patient trust is huge, and that's with any patient at all that we're working with, right? Not just rheumatoid arthritis, but making sure that we have that really transparent communication when we're offering the consent form. Instead of just having the patient take it and kind of go into a back room and read it on their own, instead of putting the burden of them to come up with questions, I think sitting with them and clearly outlining the purpose, the risks, the benefits of participation, it's going to create a more comfortable, casual discourse between the clinic and the patient. And I think it'll encourage those natural questions to kind of come up in that conversation. And having these natural conversations and questions, it's going to empower the patient to make more of these informed decisions. And then just continuing that really throughout the course of the study, making sure that there are ongoing updates. And obviously we provide official updates right through new consent forms, but just having a conversation every single time the patient is coming into the office, or I always suggest doing kind of an outreach call every so often to check in with them, but making sure that they feel informed and comfortable throughout the study. And it's going to foster engagement and have that patient feel comfortable to reach out to you, right? And not just have you reaching out to them. It's going to increase compliance. It's going to make sure that they're coming into all of those visits. It's going to make sure that they're taking their medication. And ultimately, that's going to reduce the withdrawal rate from the trial.
Mm-hmm. So this was so interesting. Thank you so much, Harley, for all this information. So this concludes our episode for today. It was a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
As we conclude another illuminating episode of Face Forward, we find ourselves at the crossroads of science and progress. Remember that behind the jargon and statistics lie stories of unwavering commitment, meticulous observation, and the pursuit of evidence that shapes our understanding of health and disease. Stay at the forefront of knowledge and innovation and follow Face Forward on your preferred platform. My name is Valerie Kovney. Thank you for joining us. Until next time.